something really good, a hot topic in the news this week's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate real stories. Welcome to Truth and Justice with Vivian King. We have another fascinating story for you tonight. It's actually a tragedy of a triple homicide. There was a young man named Cedric Johnson who was arrested for committing capital murder. And a capital murder can be defined as two or more people being killed. That's one of the ways you can commit a capital murder. The prosecutor's office has to determine whether they're going to seek death or whether it'll be a non-death capital murder. And with a non-death capital murder, if you get convicted, you automatically get life without parole. That's the state of the current law. I have with me in the studio famed attorney Tyrone Moncriffe. It was his case. He got the case dismissed. He was the second lawyer on the case. And we also have his investigator in the studio, Carolyn Porter. She's going to explain the intricacies of a capital murder investigation. It was her investigation that led to the case getting dismissed, also with the excellent advocacy skills of Tyrone. We also have in the studio Renita Antoine. She's an aspiring lawyer. She's 23, and she's going to give the 23-year-old perspective of this case. So let's just get straight into it, Tyrone. Thank you for being a guest on the show.
It's my pleasure being here, Vivian.
And helping to educate the community about the Harris County criminal justice system. So talk to me about Cedric's case.
Horrendous case in terms of we have 3 people killed, not just shot, but burned. I have the greatest investigator in the world. She's going to lay it out the facts for us, and we'll kind of interact with the case. But I want her to kind of give us a summary of what happened. Carolyn, tell the listening audience what happened.
Okay, just as Tyrone has said, and so has Vivian said, this is a heinous case. This involved 3 individuals, 1 man and 2 women. This was a case where there was no breaking and entering. Apparently, whoever did this, we think they knew him because there was nothing disturbed that would make you think that somebody broke in to rob or steal or anything like that.
And this was at a person's house, is that
exactly.
correct?
Right.
Okay.
This was at, and it happened at night, around 11 o'clock at night. And so...
Carolyn, just interrupt you for a second. We're going to interrupt each other, too.
Certainly, absolutely.
There was somebody else you left out. It was 4 people in the house, remember?
Yes, yes. There was a man that was being cared for by one of the ladies in the house. This person had dementia. He was in bed, didn't even know what was going on. He was an elderly man. And actually, we don't know what he knew because he's not able to comprehend or say anything about what he saw or anything like that.
And this elderly man was not killed, was
This
he?
man
No.
was not killed. He wasn't shot. He wasn't anything.
Was his caretaker one of the people that got killed?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, one of the ladies was his caretaker.
Carol, I mean, and Vivian, it was almost as though they put him in a bag and just, we're not going to mess with you, Pops, but the other 3 are going to die.
Wow.
That seemed to be the impression we received.
Right.
Wow. And let me just give you a little bit more background. I invited Cedric Johnson to be on the show. He promised me he was going to be here, and he didn't show up. And as you know, if you're a regular viewer of my show, you know I always have the defendant or the accused mother, a relative on, so they can tell the human point of view. But it's such an interesting story. I didn't want to cancel or try to get someone else in tonight. And Cedric is a little slow, and so and we're not saying that to be mean or to be ugly, but he would have had a hard time articulating the story. And we think he got a little scared, so we couldn't find him today. So we're going to tell the story, and with his permission, he knows we're telling the story anyway, okay? So I want to go ahead and tell, because he didn't do it, and he was lucky enough to have a great team to fight for him.
Let me tell you a little bit about capital murder as far as the investigator is concerned. When a person is charged with capital murder, the investigator has to start from the time he was born up until the actual incident, We want to know everything about him. We want to know him better than he knows himself. In this particular case, in all our cases with Mr. Tyrone Moncriffe, we have lots and lots of meetings. We have lots and lots of visits with our, with the defendant as well. And so we got to know Cedric pretty well over the year and a half that he was a defendant.
And he was in jail this whole time.
The whole time.
You need to know this. He couldn't make bond, so he was in jail. It doesn't even say. It said he was held without bond.
Right,
exactly.
right.
Exactly. Couldn't even
Which is
get a
real
bond.
typical in Harris County, and that's one of the things that troubles me is when you're held without bond for a crime you didn't commit. Now, I do understand that society has a right to be protected, but protected from someone who didn't do it, it just seems like there should be some happy median. But anyway, because that's a year and a half out of a man's life.
Right.
Exactly. And there was a witness that came forward once the Crime Stoppers got a hold of it, and they offered them a $5,000, for being able to tell if they knew who did this or any information about it.
But Carolyn, you're skipping a major point.
Okay.
How did they get the witness? How did the witness from the gas can? Remember that?
Right,
Okay.
right. First, there was, at the scene, a gas can was found. Okay, from that gas can, it led to
Store.
the store. From the store, it led to a video.
Right.
Thank you for reminding me of that. And from the video, this was played on TV.
Right.
So let me make sure I understand and my viewers understand. There was because the bodies were shot and burned up. Were they burned up inside the house or outside the house?
Inside the house.
Inside the house. Now, where is this elderly man?
Inside the house. In the back room.
Inside
So how
the
did he
house.
not get burned up? The house didn't catch on fire?
No. They just burned the bodies.
How do you just burn a body without it?
Gasoline right and pointed right on these people.
Right.
So you pour it on the people, and the rest of the house doesn't go up in smoke?
Did not.
That's
did not,
wild.
Did not.
So they didn't care if that man did get killed.
No. Well, they looked like they were very precise at what they did. They put him in the back and almost to lock him in.
Wow.
And they burned the bodies,
Systematically.
systematically.
Wow. So the bodies are burned systematically. So what all the police have to go on is this gas can.
Right.
So they have a gas can. They follow the gas can
To the store.
to a store where they think it was purchased from.
Right, right.
From there, they follow that and ask for a video.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
the video has the person who bought the gas can,
Exactly.
Right.
presumably.
Presumably, they showed the person buying this particular can.
Was it Cedric Johnson?
Well, let me show you. This goes into the story. They had a photo. You can see the person from neck down.
Wow.
But that's it. Okay? You can see his body. You can hear the voice. A crime person, crime witness, Crime Stoppers called and said, I know that voice. I know that body. That's how Cedric Johnson gets involved.
So someone identifies Cedric Johnson as the person on the video from the neck down, and that's his voice.
That's his
and
voice.
that alone gets Cedric Johnson arrested.
An additional family members. He had a family member call and said, that's Cedric Johnson.
So two people called Crime Stoppers.
Right? Yeah. Everybody was running for money.
Running for money. So that's not always a good
Really,
thing.
No.
they was calling Crime Stoppers and the DA.
And the DA's office, right.
Trying to get money, and he
Right.
gets arrested just based on that tip.
On that
And so
tip.
from this, because one of the things we might call this episode is trying to fit the pieces together, because that's what Carolyn
Exactly.
said.
That's what we
and
talked
so
about. Exactly.
Carolyn said it's trying to fit the pieces together. So now we have all these calls, and don't tell me that just that gets this man arrested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
Because
much.
nobody sees him burn up a body. Nobody
No.
sees him do a shooting.
There was
Nobody
no
sees him at
eyewitnesses.
the,
No
but nobody even
eyewitnesses.
sees
No
him leave this
eyewitnesses at all.
house.
Right.
It's in Southeast Houston off of Macawa. You said the address was 6122 Bellcrest. But
Right.
nobody sees anything else other than this trail of a gas can.
Well,
There
there's
was
one other thing.
One neighbor who saw a car that looks like Cedric's car pull out of the location. Okay?
This car was supposed to have been a white car. Cedric had a pale gray car.
Right.
Pale gray,
Right.
four-door sedan.
And if you look at Cedric's car late, it looks white.
Okay.
It could, And that's sort of how they started connecting Cedric.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so Cedric's kind of slow, can't defend himself, and it appears that the district attorney's office typed up the charges December 21st, 2007 for a crime that had been committed November 12th, 2007. So that's about, what, a month and 10 days later, or 9 days later, based on this tip and this video. Now Cedric is in jail while, I guess, the police officers and the DAs try to continue to put the pieces together.
Put the pieces together,
because
right.
what kind of trial would it be, Tyrone, with just that?
It'd be difficult, very difficult. Very
And
difficult.
then they knew that Cedric knew the man that lived there.
That was a relationship between
That was a
Cedric and this
relationship there.
man. Okay, it was a relationship. The man owed Cedric some money or vice versa. Cedric hadn't paid him some money. So there was some dispute between these two, okay?
The old man, but he's not the one that got killed.
No,
No.
It was
You're talking about the
between-
guy who was killed.
Oh, okay, the
Right.
man
Right.
that got killed.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So in
But
essence,
how much money is it?
it was a small amount of money.
It was a small
because he
amount
was
of
working
money, yeah.
part-time for him.
Right.
Small amount of money.
He
But
did handyman work from time to time.
Okay.
Right.
So
and
it was just a minimal amount of money.
But there were people in the family who were saying Cedric didn't like this guy didn't like Cedric, so they started putting those pieces
But that would
together.
make you kill 3 people
That's what I felt.
and save Pops?
That's what I
Right.
thought. That's what I
Right.
thought.
That doesn't make sense.
When I looked at the facts, I said, no, this is not a killing of someone like Cedric. Vivian, you and I know, after you do this work, someone you see the character of people.
Right.
This guy's character is not. This was a character of an assassin. The
It
person
wasn't
who
the character of a killer, of Cedric.
No.
When you got to know
No.
Cedric.
it was a
No.
character of an assassin, but something else was important. We talked about it. They let him in. Whoever these assassins were, they were
Right.
allowed into that house.
Exactly.
So they knew these people. You see what I mean?
And
it was
Pops,
not a
is
forced
Pops like a
entry.
vegetable where he couldn't even say who was there or what happened? Or can he talk a little bit?
Talk
well,
a
it was
little
like
bit.
he had Alzheimer's or
Yeah.
something
But
like that.
Alzheimer's is all different
Right.
degrees.
Right.
Some people with Alzheimer's have real good sense, and sometimes they just flake out about certain things. So that's not really descriptive.
Yeah, he would not have
Right.
been a witness for them because I think
Right.
he was flake out.
Right.
Every so often.
I
Okay.
tried to interview him, attempted to through his daughter, and his daughter told me,
Just don't
you
worry.
know, it just wasn't no way.
Right.
She never let
He
you
didn't
actually
know
talk to him.
anything. No. Matter of fact, they moved him out of town,
Right.
and he was
I
living
guess
with
they
his
would have
daughter
been
at that
scared when
time.
everybody gets killed
Yeah,
and burned up
absolutely.
in that house.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And when my first interview of Cedric, I saw a person who was not capable of that type of killing.
And why did you think that, Tyrone?
Just my interaction. I know you, for
Right.
example. There are certain things about you I can say, no, you don't have that capability. But I also know I've met people who are killers.
Right.
There's a sense of a killer, and I didn't sense that in him from the day one to the end.
And I'm sure, just like most of our clients, he was adamant he didn't do it.
Absolutely.
Very much
Wouldn't
so.
take any deal, wouldn't take nothing, wouldn't work nothing out, so we just had to fight it all the way through. Okay?
Right.
So
Wow.
what we started to do was make some sense out of it. You know, we realized that this was a killing that was someone who knew this person. It was systematically done. Okay? So these were thinking people.
Right.
We got the video, and we looked at the video, and Carolyn and I sort of recreated the event. You know, in our minds, we go back, take a case, and break it open like a
Right.
puzzle.
Right.
Like a puzzle.
Take the pieces of the puzzle together. In the video, and I wish we had a copy of it for you, showed the young man walked up to the front, and where he was standing, there was a cigarette case. His head was taller than the cigarette case, okay? That was a clue to me of something there, okay? Carolyn and I went back to the store, and I walked up to the cigarette case, but when I walked up to it, for my head to go over the cigarette case, I'd have to be 6 feet.
Okay.
Cedric was 5'7". So what I did was my nephew, who's 5'7", I took him back to the store, and we kind of stood there. I had to go get a motion to have the store recreate the whole scene for us. What's my judge?
This is in
177,
the
just,
177, so it was Kevin Fine.
Kevin Fine. Judge Fine allowed me to go back and gave an order to the store to allow me to recreate the events. So I brought my nephew in, who's 5'7". We took a video of him walking through, standing in the same spot where Cedric would have been standing, and you could see his face.
Okay.
So I knew, whoever was buying that gasoline can was taller than 5'7".
Exactly.
Okay?
That's an important
So
piece.
we went back, as you know, Vivian, you've got to go to the scene, you got to walk
Got to
through it.
go over and
You've
over.
got to
Over
see
and
it,
over.
you've got to see it and feel it. Okay?
You got to be there.
So I had Carolyn doing all types of things. Carolyn, you did some other things. Tell us some of the other things you did
We
in the
did so many
investigation.
things. We had members of his family that we wanted to interview, and every time we would try, it was always a reason. They were already talking to the DA. They didn't want to talk to us. We sent letters.
Now, when you say member of his family, we're talking about Cedric?
Yes.
Cedric's family
Defendant's family
would not cooperate with you, with his own defense?
Some
Certain
members would not,
members.
absolutely.
Some members would not. They would rather talk to the district attorney's office
Exactly.
on their own relative.
Right.
While you guys are, basically, Tyrone is retained. I mean,
Right.
it's not like
Right.
he's court appointed.
But all
I know-
these people knew the people that was killed as well.
Right.
Okay.
Everybody knew each other.
Everybody knew each other. So it was as though
Did his family members feel he had a motive to do something that vicious? Because his background is not vicious.
No, no.
no, not at all.
Vivian, what we realized was there was schism in the family. One side was against the other side.
Okay.
And that's what we ran into. Okay.
That's for sure. And so his mother and his sister is who we talked to over and over and over again. And she explained the family to us. So after a while, we knew the dynamics of the family. And in that process, we went from there to the neighbors
Right.
in the area, talking to them. They
Now, did
were
Cedric also live in the southeast part of Houston?
No, Cedric lived in Pasadena.
And what about his mother?
His mother lived in
She lived in Southeast.
Sunnyside.
It was
South-
He lived in
Southeast
that
area.
So he
Yeah.
had a reason to come to Southeast.
Right.
Because his mother lived there, he visited there, was probably raised there.
Right.
Right.
And so he was raised in that Bellcrest area.
Absolutely,
right.
he was.
Plus, he
was.
would pick his girlfriend up right near where he used to work when he was working for one of the members that was one of the victims. So he had a reason to come that way. He
Right.
would pick her up every day from work. So
And she did. And what was his girlfriend's relationship to one of the victims?
they were all friends. They knew each other because they used to live in those same apartments where one of the man that was murdered was over those apartments. He was the manager. So all of them used to live in those same apartments.
Okay. All right. So, okay, I'm going back to you, Tyrone.
Okay,
Now, how
sure.
did you get a feel that they were going to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt?
I thought it would be difficult for them to do so. Of course, we had to, one eyewitness, the one who picks him out of the video, said, that's Cedric. Matter of fact, she was 100% sure.
100%.
She said, I know that's
Right.
100% sure that's Cedric.
And even though she was a Crime Stopper tip, you believe they revealed her identity?
We interviewed her.
I mean, but how did you know who
We
she
did
was?
a
They put her in-
deposition.
We did a deposition.
They had her
Right.
in the police report?
No, they did not, but we were able to pull it out because
Right.
I was able to force the DA. I kept showing them what we were having, how difficult this case would be for them. And I said, we were requesting a deposition of the lady. We had to. Let me tell you why.
Now, why a deposition? We don't usually use that in criminal
I'm
law.
explaining to
Right.
you. Good point. You're jumping ahead of me, Vivian. We don't. But this woman was 500 pounds.
Oh, my God.
She could not move.
Oh, my God.
Literally.
Right. We literally talked to her in her bed.
We went to her bedroom and interviewed her with the prosecutor.
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
We all went in. Sonny Mitchell.
right.
We all sit down and interviewed her in the bed as she told the story.
And the reason being, they didn't think she was going to live to the
Right.
time when this would have went to trial.
Right. Because of her health reasons, they didn't think she'd live long enough to make it to a trial. So,
Now, was she a relative?
No,
no, she was not.
she was a resident that used to live in those same apartments
Right.
But how would that make her know Cedric?
because Cedric used to work around those apartments doing handyman work.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like she was very mobile.
No.
So how would she really get a good look at him all the time?
She would go out in a wheelchair from time to time, and
Right.
her weight had increased,
Yeah.
you know, as the time went on.
Yeah. Yeah. She knew Cedric in terms of watching him in the area, that type of thing.
And she was very good friends with the man's wife.
Right.
The
That
the
was
dead
murdered.
man's wife.
Right.
Exactly. So the deposition took place in her bedroom with her laying in the bed.
Now, who would buy? Okay, it's off the subject, but who would buy her food if she couldn't move around? That's a lot. If her weight
Her
was
daughter.
increased.
Her
Her daughter.
daughter
Oh, her
was
daughter.
a
She had a daughter.
caregiver.
Okay.
Her daughter was
Right.
sort of a caregiver for her,
Right.
but Sonny was allowed to ask questions and I was allowed to ask questions, identification issues. And when I started to ask the question, it became obvious that she was creating a story.
And Sonny, who he's referring to, is the prosecutor.
Right.
Sonny Mitchell is a chief prosecutor in the Harris County District Attorney's Office that tries a lot of capital murder cases.
Exactly.
Right.
So when someone might die, there's an exception in the rules that allow us to motion the court to have a deposition of a criminal defendant or criminal witness, and both sides have to go and ask questions to preserve that for trial. It's very seldom used. In my 20 years, I've never done it. It's only done if someone's about to die, maybe if someone is stationed in Iraq and they might be coming in. It has to be a very extenuating circumstance because the Constitution in criminal cases allows an accused to confront their accuser. That means in court. Civil cases where people fight about money is you can have depositions because the Constitution doesn't apply to confronting your accuser. This is a good time for a break to take a phone call. Please, caller, turn your TV volume down and just talk into the telephone. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Okay, I got it turned down. It's Tracy Brown here.
Hey, Tracy.
How you doing? I want to say hello to Mr. Moncrieffe and Renita and Carolyn. And
how you doing?
Hi, Tracy.
How are you doing
How you
tonight?
I just want to say that I'm just so happy that y'all was able to be so thorough in your investigation and be able to, get somebody out. Because you got so many people, convicted of capital murder and they wind up on death row. Innocent people, dying and stuff like that. So I want to congratulate y'all on that. And I want, tell Vivian, I put your website up.
Oh, thank you.
Look at it, not yet.
Okay, I haven't looked at it yet. I'm sorry, Tracy, but I appreciate you being my biggest fan.
Oh,
How do I find it, Tracy?
Just go to watch Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Okay.
On Facebook.
Okay, well, Renita, the 23-year-old's here, so I'm going to ask her to find that for me and let me know, okay?
All righty.
Do I have any fans yet on there?
You got about 300 or something already.
Already? When did you put that up? Last week?
It's been about a week ago.
All righty, Tracy. Thank you, baby. I appreciate you.
Oh, no problem.
Thanks
And
for calling.
Renita, good luck to you too in your endeavors, trying to do what you got to do.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye. Now, let's let Renita talk. Do you have any opinion, Renita, on what you've heard so far?
It's a lot
Get
to
used to
digest. Yeah. I definitely agree with Tracy as far as, being wrongly convicted, and there's so many innocent people behind bars.
Right.
And it's just...
It's a lot to digest.
It is.
It's a lot to digest.
It is.
One of the things that people don't understand is how difficult our jobs is that we actually investigate everything. Good lawyers investigate. So if you hear in the community, oh, so-and-so's a good lawyer, Vivian's a good lawyer, Tyrone's a good lawyer, what that means, what distinguishes us from a lot of other lawyers is that we don't just go to court and plead people.
Right.
If our client, we talk to our clients and they say they didn't do it, we take it from the very beginning.
Right.
We read the police report, we say, why did they think this person did it?
Right.
And we try to recreate the crime
Right.
and try to find out who the suspect is, kind of
Right.
like Perry Mason. Now, one of the things that they've done, Tyrone and Carolyn did, is they created the scene. They created the height. They created this 500-pound woman is saying it's him, and
Right.
that got him arrested.
Right.
So he's in jail, and what's sad with law enforcement is that they don't take it to that extra.
Absolutely.
Because I've been doing this show for a year, every week for a
Absolutely.
year, and a lot of times I've had a lot of callers call in when we've talked about people unjustly tried or convicted or whatever, and one of the things that's becoming even more apparent than it was before I started doing the show is that a lot of this should be dealt with on the police officers' investigation level.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Too many cases
Absolutely.
become cases, and then from there, the prosecutors are just trying to make it fit and work.
Exactly.
And one of the things that,
Exactly.
one of my philosophies as a trial lawyer is that the truth doesn't change. I just had to tell that to a prosecutor today. What I find too much is that prosecutors will take a police officer that's investigated it and woodshed them or try to tell them what to say or how to say it. That shouldn't be.
Right.
The
Exactly.
truth shouldn't change.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There should be less of that. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly a prosecutor has a duty to investigate too and to talk to their police officer, but I just live in this make-believe world that I wish that a prosecutor could say, hey, police officer, you didn't do that right.
Right,
This
right.
violates the Constitution.
This doesn't make sense.
And next
Let
time,
me-
let's do it
Yes.
this way.
Let me
Right.
give Sonny Mitchell credit. She did. Sonny saw this, and when she started to
She
see
did.
the pieces starting to fall apart, she did step back and say, wait a minute, this wasn't done right. I will give her credit. She really
Right.
did.
And I appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate Sonny. Sonny is honorable, and she has done things in the past in capital murders I've had.
Right.
So, I mean, I agree. And I'm not saying that to say that all prosecutors are bad, because I
Absolutely.
think most of them are good.
Most of them are. I'll agree.
Marvelous, and I think Harris County has a great district attorney's office. But what bothers me is sometimes we as prosecutors, and I was challenged, but I always did it as a prosecutor, to actually talk to the police honestly.
Right.
Because,
right.
you know, everybody's protecting one another instead of being honest and not. I'm saddened because we don't value everybody's life. You know,
Absolutely.
Some people value the victims' lives, which are very important.
Right.
But we need to value the defendants' lives too. And as defense lawyers, we're in a unique position to value everybody's life.
Absolutely.
The victim, the defendant, all the families involved.
Right.
And it's a misconception that we don't care about the victims. We do, but we want the right person in jail.
Right.
Now, if Cedric, being a little slow, is convicted for a crime he didn't commit, then there is an assassin out there that is out there to assassinate other people.
Exactly.
I mean, they've killed 3 people.
It's still unsolved right now.
Let's take a call. Caller, this is Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Yes, my name is Danny. I'm calling in for the show.
Yes, sir. Do you have a comment about the show?
Yes, the comment I had was in regards to the cost involved in a person retaining an attorney to represent them in a case.
We don't talk about cost on this show. We're a public access show. We talk about the criminal justice system and educate. So do you have an educational question or a comment about how you think this investigation went? This is for education, not money.
Okay, because the contrast I was saying is they had representation, and that when you don't have any money, you don't get the private investigator and all that.
She was actually court appointed. You were paid by the system, weren't you?
No, family pay.
No, I'm just saying. But part of it, I saw a court appointed.
She said, yeah, she sent part of her voucher in.
Right, in the
They
end, they
paid
ran
some
out
of
of
it.
money.
They ran out.
Right, no,
So
so
they did start off paying me.
Okay, yeah, but much of her investigative fee, it's public record, I pulled it offline,
Right.
was paid by the court systems. So the court systems will pay.
Right.
And we do a lot of things. I do capital murders court appointed. And I've had a capital murder dismissed. I've had a capital murder that was court appointed. I've had a capital murder that I've tried, death penalty case that I've tried, that he got found not guilty, and it was a confession. He was found not guilty of capital murder, but guilty of robbery, because that's what he said he did. He didn't kill the person. Somebody else killed him.
Right.
And so, I mean, we've all had good results as
Right.
court-appointed lawyers, so that's a myth.
And we work just as hard.
God bless you.
Just as hard as if,
Yeah, it's a myth that
You know,
all court-appointed lawyers. Just put it this way: there are good cops and bad cops. There are good
Exactly.
lawyers and bad lawyers. There are good, policemen and bad policemen. There are good prosecutors. There are bad ones. There are good doctors. There are bad ones. At every profession, there is good and bad. So I would just tell you that most court-appointed lawyers are great. Most of us do court appointments.
Right, absolutely.
I do capital murder court appointments. So let's not talk about that. Let's focus on the case and what a great job that they did. And, we want to beat up the system, so we don't want to talk about sometimes how good people are.
Right.
Let's see if there's another call. Nope, there's no other call. All right, so.
I had Carolyn doing a lot of work, Vivian, as you can imagine, because the stakes are so high. We're talking about 3 deaths. We're talking about a young man who could look at the rest of his life in prison.
And he was 39 years old.
39 years old.
So he already stayed a year and a half in prison. What saddens me is that law enforcement wants to solve crime so badly that they don't think about, would you really want your son or your brother arrested and kept in jail for a case that was investigated like this?
Absolutely.
To me, law enforcement doesn't value minority and poor and slow, retarded people like they might value their own.
They almost dehumanize.
They dehumanize them.
Dehumanize
And if we would start elevating everybody's level of importance, maybe we wouldn't waste as much money in our criminal justice system, because that's a person that was housed for a year and a half,
Right.
that taxpayers had to pay for, that a family missed, and he didn't do it.
Right.
There's no apology, there's no money, there's no nothing associated with that. You would only do that to someone you think is less than human.
Right.
Exactly.
You
Right.
wouldn't do that to your brother or sister with this evidence.
Right.
With this evidence.
Right. And Vivian, as you know, our job as a defense lawyer is to humanize,
Exactly.
break humanity into the courtroom. And that's what Carolyn was talking about earlier, how we go back from a kid's childhood all the way up, so that we could see the human being also.
And find out if this human being is capable of murder.
Absolutely.
That's what I do too. You get to know the
Exactly.
person, you spend time with them, and you find out what are they capable of doing.
Right.
You find that out from their families.
Right.
Yeah.
You find out that he might lie, but he's not going to hurt you.
Right.
Or you find out that somebody might hit a wall instead of hitting someone. You find the character of a person.
Right. And it takes a story, getting into the story of the person. And Carolyn and I have had some horrendous cases. We have
Very
fought.
much so.
She gives me ideas, and I'm always open to her ideas and suggestions,
Yeah.
because she actually does the legwork, you know?
Right.
And she'll talk to witnesses, and I'll say, okay, let me talk to them, see if I have the same feel.
Exactly.
Okay?
Let's talk about this case now. On
Sure.
the 3 people that were murdered, were any of their spouses or close family members, did they have any clues as to who would want to kill them?
Let's see, one of the victims, who was a man, he had some enemies in the past. There was a lot of stuff that he did in his past that involved people, you know, of ill repute. And so going back into his life, we went all the way to New York,
Right.
you know, because that's where he came from. And from there, we talked to people there. We talked to his friends in, I think, Florida and
Right.
some other places. So he had lived different places other than just Houston, Texas. And the person that he ended up marrying was one of the people who was killed also. So we
a
looked at
couple
her
was
life
actually
as
married.
well.
Right,
So that,
right,
that's
those two.
Barbara Bailey,
Was that Elaine?
Elaine.
Yeah.
So a husband and wife was killed?
Right.
And another guy?
Right.
Yeah, another lady.
Another lady.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Who was a friend of the wife.
Right.
So, you know, it's so unusual for people to be assassinated like this. You wonder why would they be there, and what was there, drugs or alcohol in their systems, or?
Vivian,
None of that.
you're forgetting all the money that was in the closet.
Oh yeah, tell the rest of that
Yeah,
part of the
it was
story.
$10,000 or more
Yes.
in the closet. What was it, in a satchel or something?
It was in one of those cans, you know, that you raise
Right,
open.
right.
And he had this money because
Who was he?
collected the man that was murdered, the one that used to be
lived there?
manager
Right.
of the apartment.
Did he live there?
Yes,
Yeah,
he
that
was.
was his place.
That was his place,
Okay.
his house.
So, but it sounds like the elderly man, it was his house too.
No, he was just being kept there.
Right.
But he's living there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had
So
a
who actually
caregiver. He
lived there?
lived with his caregiver.
Who actually lived there?
The man and 2 ladies.
Okay.
One was his wife, and the other one was a friend of his wife.
And everybody that lived there got killed, except the
Except
elderly
the
man.
elderly
right.
man.
Wow. See, I was
Right.
thinking they were visiting. So
No.
they actually lived there.
They
Lived
actually
there.
lived there.
Right.
And when you burn somebody up, will autopsy then show whether or not they were high or had drugs or alcohol in their system?
They didn't have alcohol in their system. I do
Right,
remember that.
right.
There's no drugs, no
And
alcohol.
they died before the smoke,
Right.
so there was no smoke in their lungs.
Right. They were actually
They were
dead
actually dead
when their bodies were
when
burned.
they were set on fire.
So is it your theory in reinvestigating this that the assassin walked in, knew them obviously, they were let in,
Right.
killed them, and then left and went and got the gas can like it
No,
was an
no, no, no,
afterthought? Or
no,
you
no,
think
no,
they
no.
came with
They
the
had
gas
all.
can?
They were ready.
They were
came
ready
with
to
it.
kill them.
They came with it.
Wow.
They came
And
with
it.
y'all
Because
know
the
Cedric wasn't smart enough to
timeline,
do that.
That's
Right.
part 2. Number one, he didn't have a personality, but he wasn't smart enough to do that.
Because that
This was
means
a
you have to be
calculated-
ready to go kill
This was
somebody.
calculated.
This was
They
a-
came there ready. They knew their routine.
Right.
They knew what they'd be doing around 11 o'clock at night
Right.
when they came to knock on the door. This person had to know certain things to be able to carry this murder out as systematic as it was, and it had to have been, the way we saw it, there had to have been 2 because one person was driving the car.
And also the shells was from 2 different.
Two
it was a
different
Glock
guns, a Glock and a
So
22.
it was 2 shooters,
Wow.
Exactly.
Right.
Plus at the store, there was 2
2 gentlemen.
persons together.
Right.
And that's unusual. Usually if there's one person will go in and get the gas can,
No.
but it looked
They
like
were in
they
there
were together.
2 came in.
Right.
I don't believe, and I still don't believe, the 2 guys who bought the gas can were the killers.
You think they might have just been some friends of theirs, associates that they sent
somebody
in
go
to
get
buy
and buy it.
Right.
These guys who planned this were too smart to put themselves on the camera.
Now, what do you think that these people were into that would get them assassinated, and the assassins still wouldn't take the $10,000 that was found in a can?
And these were not small-minded people. They was not small fry. These were somebody big. I feel that this was an assassin, a big hit. We want these people dead. That's it.
But who would want regular people dead?
That's a good question. If this guy was regular, we don't know. You know, I think that he may not have been regular. He might have been leaving New York, say, for example, to come here to get away from something.
And somebody might have followed him.
Something followed him. And
now, when you say he and his wife?
Just maybe, I don't know. But
did he get the wife here, or did he bring her?
You know,
he met her here.
Met her here.
Let's take a phone call, please.
Okay.
Thank you for your call.
I was just saying, thinking that you was doing a good job and that you look beautiful tonight.
Oh, thank you. And who are you, sir?
My name is KB.
KB, do I know you, KB?
No, you don't know me. I'm just giving you a compliment.
Okay, well, I appreciate the compliment. Have you been able to tune in tonight? Have you heard the whole show?
Yeah, I was just tuning in. You know what I'm saying? I usually catch you every now and then, but I just let you know that you look good tonight.
Thank you.
Doing a good job. Keep the good work up.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
All right.
Good night. Wow. So to recap then, we're talking about a capital murder that occurred November of 2007, in which a man named Cedric Johnson was arrested in December of 2007, and his lawyer, Tyrone Moncriffe, and the investigator, Carolyn Porter, solved the crime. They reinvestigated the case. Cedric was a little slow. He was charged with killing 3 people in their home, like basically a home invasion, but they were invited in. Whoever did it was invited in. The people were, because there was no forced entry, 3 people were killed, and a gas can was found at the scene by the police. They traced it to a store. They had a video of the person from the neck down, and then a Crime Stoppers tip that said it looked like Cedric. That got him arrested and held in jail for a year and a half until his great lawyer and investigator figured out that it couldn't be him and convinced the prosecutor that they had the wrong person, and she did the honorable thing by dismissing the case, and the case is still ongoing. Let's take another call. Caller, thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Hello.
Hello.
Good show.
Thank you, sir, for saying that.
If I miss a minute, I feel like I missed a lot.
Well, I tried to just recap. We're just kind of delving into how difficult it is to reinvestigate a case. And sir, are you the caller that has called in before and tried to figure out where did this go wrong?
I've called in before, and you've had so many cases where people didn't commit the crime, so of course I wondered that.
Yeah. So one of the things, based on your comment and calling in and just me doing this for 20 years, it's getting more and more apparent to me that we need more emphasis on the law enforcement end before the DAs take charges. I was a prosecutor for 3 years, and sometimes charges are just accepted a little bit too quickly. But anyway, thank you very much for calling.
I think people should be arrested for, prosecutors should be arrested for Brady violations. I was wondering, who was the first chair in this case?
Tyrone Moncrieffe, the lawyer that's here talking tonight. He was the only chair.
I thought he was second chair.
No. He was the first chair. He was the only lawyer. This was a retained case, and the family could only afford to hire one lawyer and partially hire the investigator. The court paid for a lot of the investigation fee.
Well, I'm sorry, my mistake. Congratulations, Carolyn.
Thank you. This trial never went to court. So.
It never went to trial. The prosecutor, Sonny Mitchell, dismissed the case in May of 2009. So the guy was in jail from December of 2007, held without bond until May of 2009.
Did the dismissal come right before the trial date?
I pulled that.
Sure. Did it ever get set?
Yeah, it was on a trial date. It was originally set for trial. The first trial setting looked like it was June 12th of 2009. Then it was reset for another trial date, August 21st, 2009. And then it was dismissed Oh, I must be saying this wrong. I'm reading it wrong. First trial date was February 2009, then June 2009, then it was dismissed before the next trial date, off docket, May 2009, because the next trial was going to be August 2009.
Right.
So yeah, it was short of trial, but they were ready with their evidence and as the defense, and they shared that with the prosecution, who eventually dismissed it.
Well, good for them. So sorry that it took so long. But one other aspect I had a question about. So I know you're still telling what was involved. The informant with the Crime Stoppers. Is there any way he could have been the perpetrator?
No, it was she.
It was a 500-pound woman, so no, not in this case, because she couldn't leave her house. They had to, Tyrone, the defense lawyer, and Sonny, the prosecutor, actually had to go do a deposition of her in her home because they felt her health was so bad that she might be dead before the trial.
Right.
So they cross-examined her on video with a court reporter at her home.
That's a little detail that I missed when I went to the bathroom.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for calling. I appreciate you, okay? Anyway, Renita, if you have a comment, you're welcome to chime on in. If not, we'll keep talking.
Can I ask Renita a question, since I'm sitting there?
Certainly.
What is it like to be a person who's not involved with us like we are when you hear these facts? How do you feel? Is it scary? Do you think things like this really happen?
Well, I know for a fact they happen. Actually, I was a criminal justice major at Lamar, and I also interned at the district attorney's office in Beaumont. So I was able to look at a few capital murder cases. So, you know, but to see someone burned, you know, to that extent, it's a little, you know, of course anybody is capable of anything, you know, so, but to know, you know, it's so close to home, you know, a lot of people are oblivious to the fact that crime happens. And so.
And the reason I asked the question, because Vivian and I try cases, and we have to have jurors who are like you, who are new to this world, and we have to translate the story to them.
Yeah, and so in asking that, would you just think, based on the facts that the government had, that Cedric was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt?
Oh, definitely not. With the statement that you said, of course, you can't dispute the facts. So that's one thing that's not going to change in the case. And yeah, it's, you know, it's just it's the smallest details that get overlooked a lot of the times, which in turn gets people incarcerated.
So well, one of the things that was fabulous about this is that Tyrone had a judge that issued a court order, because a lot of people give Kevin Fine a hard time, but to issue a court order to recreate the scene and basically order the store to videotape it the same way and give us the videotape. I mean, because I'm just telling you, most judges would not have done that court order. And so Kevin Fine was a Democrat, and Democrat Republicans shouldn't matter. But he has gotten a lot of bad press, so I want to give him some good press. That actually saves taxpayers money in the long run. You're not going through $1 million capital murder trial and putting somebody on death row, because people are so sad when they see some burned bodies. If you can just show a nexus kind of to how this person might get there, people don't care, and they just want this crime solved.
Based upon emotion.
Based upon emotion. And the fact that this defendant is not related to them, and obviously the police must know something we don't know, so let's just kind of go with it. But actually they don't know something that you don't know.
And there was another twist, too. Did you tell them about the dogs?
We have 15 minutes.
Come on, let's do it. we had the dogs that was supposed to take Cedric's scent and match it to the scent that was on the gas can in the house. And these dogs were supposed to have verified this.
These are police dogs?
Police dogs, from
Fort Bend.
So police dogs are supposed to verify the scent on a gas can to the scent of Cedric.
Exactly.
Which was totally ridiculous.
That's ridiculous, because they didn't even see Cedric for a month, so they're going to take a month-old scent. And dogs are going to match this to something, a can that's been around for a month and a half, and say that that's the same scent.
Plus, it was in all this smoke and everything. It was in the house.
And
part of it even burned.
And for the listeners to know, that dog sniffing has been determined to be junk science.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what it
That's
was.
exactly what
It's been used
Yes.
for years to convict people,
Right.
but now we have proof there's junk science and it's been thrown out, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, trying to fit the pieces together. My thing is that police should watch suspects. So Cedric should have been watched if they suspected him. But they should have never stopped with a 500-pound woman. How is she going to... First of all, to me, her height is off, because if you're laying on your back most of your life, you're not really...
Your perspective is different.
perspective of height is not good. Even when she goes out to the doctor, I'm sure she's in a wheelchair. And when you're like that, your perspective of height and dimensions and distance is not accurate.
Exactly.
That was one of the questions that he asked her when we were out there for the deposition.
Right. Several questions I asked her, and she was, you know, flip-flopping and flip-flopping. And I think when Sonny saw that, she said, whoa, this is not going to work. You know, we can't even use her as a witness. If you don't have her as a witness, what do you have?
What do you have?
Nothing.
And all she's putting is the can. Even if, say, for example, you went to trial and they said Cedric bought the can, and, the jury believed it beyond a reasonable doubt. Can you leap that to shooting
and
3
killing
people
someone
with 2 different guns?
2 different guns.
And burning them up?
Right, exactly.
I mean,
That's
I could go outside and tell somebody to go get me a can or something right now because I have a flat or I ran out of gas. And that can could be associated with something. I could get it back and still give it to somebody else to use.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know.
A
can is not enough. Unfortunately, sometimes what's scary, viewers, is that jurors will sometimes convict on that little evidence.
Exactly.
That's what's scary.
So that's what's scary. If you don't have a really good lawyer, that will happen. And when we say good lawyers, we mean lawyers that work with investigators, like I do, and Tyrone does. People who've tried over 100 cases. The experience of a lawyer is very important, because if you've tried a lot of cases, you understand, you've talked to a lot of jurors afterwards, and you understand what they were looking at, what they felt happened. And that helps us in preparing cases, because sometimes we get so involved that we can't objectively look at it like a layperson would look at it. We can't do that, because we want it to fit, and we still believe in the system and the integrity of the system. But sometimes people... attention span is short now. They just kind of flippantly think that, oh, if the DA said it, it happened. But the DAs weren't there. We weren't there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Vivian, people don't read like they used to. And so their attention is 1, 2, 3. Show it to me in a clip, and that's it.
So it must be true.
It must be true. They said it happened. That's true. Let's go on. You know. So we run into that fear of picking jurors. You know. That's why I asked her a question. What was it like getting into this world? You know.
Right.
You and I could talk about this, Vivian, but most people don't think about homicides, triple homicides. You and I are accustomed to it. You know?
It sounds like a hit. I mean, it's kind of like the OJ case, because that seemed like a hit to me. You know, when you do murder cases like we do, most people are not prepared to kill people. So they do leave good clues. But if they don't, you can almost think that's an assassin and a hit. And one of the things I always thought about the OJ case, it seemed like a hit because with all that blood at the scene, you never see the defendant not being bloody, the car not being bloody. Heck, we all know if you drive with a coffee in your car, 9 times out of 10, you're going to spill some on you. So how can you be at a double murder scene with all that blood we saw at the OJ case, and there's not, and cops will follow him straight home, and you don't see his whole car should have been full of blood. It should have been drops of blood. His shoes should have bloodied up that whole car, seat and floorboard of his car. Because he had to have been stepping in all that blood to go from killing one person to another one that just happened on a scene.
And just common sense reasoning. You know, when you're looking for a jury and I'm looking for a jury, what are you looking for, Viv?
I'm looking for people to have common sense, for them to have the ability to put themselves in the position of the defendant. That's what's really important to me. Most people come, because we live in a very judgmental world. It's like, you're no good, you're the defendant, and that's why I'm here to put you in jail. They could never see themselves or their children in that position. If you don't, I stay away from people that are that arrogant. And I try to, in jury selection, humanize the person and give arrogant people an opportunity to say, what if this was your son? Would you want me to fight for your son? Would you want this case investigated like this? If this was your son? And if they're capable of
making that transition,
even making that transition, then I know that they can probably be fair enough on a jury. Even though they had never thought about it that way, they can probably do it. But if they stay so arrogant and so distant and so better than everybody else, pompous, then I know that they could never be objective in looking at the facts.
And Vivian, as you and I both know, we go to a trial, we want to bring the fears up and out, you know?
Exactly, exactly. So what was your biggest fear, Carolyn, in this case, just being an investigator?
My biggest fear is that I was talking to some people that may have been the actual murderer.
Right.
Wow.
Because we were working towards proving that Cedric was not guilty. And through the amount of time that we worked on the case, we began to see there's no way he could have did this.
And some of the people you talked to could have been the people who did it.
Yeah, right. But some of the people she interviewed, and because we talked to some of them
and they cooperated in the interview?
Some of them did. Some of them did.
And then some of them, I would go to their house,
but,
and you know, wouldn't call any names, but I mean, they just would not.
But what made you think someone could have done it? Someone else that you talked to?
Well, if Cedric didn't do it, somebody else had to have done it.
But no.
So
what made
you know what I mean?
It was someone that you talked to that could have done it.
Well, there were some people that I talked to. We, you know, looked into their background and what they did every day and how they knew the persons that was actually killed. And then after learning about the victims' lives, the lives that they lived, you know, all of these people had criminal records. All of these people had lived different types of lives where they did different types of things and went in different walks in different directions. So it was a lot of elements there just in their lives that we had to look at too.
Wow. And Vivian, also, as I told you when I saw Cedric, I saw his demeanor, his character. There were some of the people she brought to my office who had the killer persona.
Right.
Exactly.
And we represented killers, so we know that killer persona and that coldness that they have.
Right. Exactly.
We have 7 minutes, and we have another caller. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King.
Oh, great show, Miss King. This is Danny Sneed.
Hey, Danny. How are you?
How you doing? I want to know what is life like for Cedric today?
Carolyn answered that question. We've all talked to him this week, so
yes.
and he was supposed to come, but he stood us up. But we understand.
Right now, he's working. He has his own apartment, and he's just living his life. He's the only boy in his family. He has 2 sisters. His mother and father are still alive, and so he's just living his life. There is something going on with his case, as far as him being compensated for the time that he was kept there.
Oh, he is being compensated.
Well, there's something going on right now to try to get him compensated.
Right. And sometimes the DAs won't say he's actually innocent, and that's what has to happen. He is 44 and living on his own, so that's a good thing.
Well, I just want to thank God for using you guys as instruments for somebody's out there fighting for justice. And thank you, Ms. King, for establishing a platform for people to have a voice for justice.
Thank you. I want to tell your story, and thank you for letting me tell yours last week. It was wonderful, and I got your DVD. I'll get it to you. I just got it tonight, okay?
Thank you.
We love you, Danny. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. My director's saying we have 6 minutes, so we'll start wrapping it up. I will let everybody have a few minutes to talk. Let's start with Renita and tell us if you have any observations about this case, just from, like, if you were on a jury or just a lay person or just an aspiring lawyer.
Details matter.
Right.
Details do matter, and that's the make or break.
Yeah,
at
details
the end of
matter.
The day. So
that's a great summary.
Right.
What about you, Carolyn?
Well, one of the things that I really hang my hat on is the statements that I get. You know, we get statements and then we have to analyze them. Does that make sense? You know, people tell you this and people tell you that about the same thing. You could ask one person standing here and they see it one way, and then another person can see it that way, and judgments of character as well. So we really have to look at a whole lot of elements, not just what somebody says. We have to really analyze it and make sure that it does make common sense. Because all of this is just common sense.
Especially when there's no eyewitness. Okay,
Absolutely.
we have 4 minutes, so I want you to take the 4 minutes to wrap it up and just tell us what you learned from this experience, Tyrone. I know you're a great trial lawyer, but tell us what was stands out about this case and this investigation?
What stands out about this case is just like all my cases, Vivian, and this is what I mean. I have a daughter who's 23, just like her. And I ask myself one question when my clients come in my office. What type of lawyer would I want her to have if she walked into a situation where she's accused of a criminal case? And I have to become that type of lawyer. The standard would be high, okay? And I look at a parent like that. I'm representing human beings, and I'm somewhat becoming like a parent to them. I want them to remember, no matter what happens at the end of the day, Carolyn and I will always say, we did our best. I can go to sleep tonight because no matter what happened, I pulled everything out of it.
Right.
So that's where I have my standard for my life. I just want to tell you, too, and I don't have but a few minutes, but it's a pleasure being on the show.
No problem.
I'm so proud that what you've done for the community and what you've done for people, and I admire your tenacity, and you're one of the greatest. I'll say that.
Tyrone.
That's my closing statement.
No, well, we have 3 minutes yet, and it's not about me, but one of the legacy I want to leave is to educate the community about the criminal justice system. Because, like I've said before, I started this show because I get about 10 calls a week with parents sad because their child has gone to jail, because they have heard things about the criminal justice system that they're finding out aren't true. And they kind of treat me like I'm the government, like I'm supposed to be giving out free advice all day. And so I said, well, what can I do? And I was artsy when I was young, but too poor to go to endeavor into the arts. So I was an accountant and then a lawyer. And so I'm kind of mixing those two aspects of my artsy side with my wanting to answer these questions for people who call all the time. I find that Harris County, even though we have so much crime, and we have so many people affected by the criminal justice system, very few of us know anything about it.
We sure don't.
I mean, as soon as we get a client, they tell us about the criminal justice system when most of them didn't go past the 10th grade. And they'll say they read something in the law library.
Or watch Perry Mason.
Or they watch Perry Mason. Or they read something in the law library. And the law is fluid. Understand this, people. The law is fluid. It changes. The people we put in the state legislature, they're the people who are writing the laws. They start a new session in January. They'll be changing all the laws as we know them today. Will be changed next year. And so the law is ever changing. So you can go to jail or read a case that was 5 years ago. It doesn't even apply anymore. It applied to the law as it was then and those facts. And so the law is ever changing. But the law is nothing without us, the people, to participate. Come to jury duty. Be fair and impartial like you can. Understand the facts of what's going on, and understand that 90% of all cases are worked out. We plead them, we investigate them, we make the punishment fit the crime. Those 10% that go to trial, there is a real issue there that's being debated. And keep an open mind when you come to jury duty and understand it's important. It's someone's life, and you have to value people's lives. We're about to wrap this up. We have 30 seconds. I just want to let you know I want to tell your story. So please, you're welcome to call me at 713-222-2019. That's my office number. You can always Google me, Vivian R. King, Houston lawyer. You can probably always Google Tyrone Moncriffe. His name has come up, or I can refer you to him if you're looking for him. Carolyn is a lawyer, is an investigator that does great work in the community. And Renita will be a lawyer, so look for her in about 5 years, okay? But right now, she's someone that I'm trying to motivate and inspire. So thank you again for listening to Cedric's story to show how our criminal justice system does work when we have good prosecutors paying attention to the facts. And Sonny, we want to thank you too. And good night. Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. We've been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate